Hello everybody, my name is Miss Oliveras and today we're going to be discussing exponent. This is our first unit, our second lesson. And this is what we're going to be doing. We're going to define what is an exponent. We are going to identify the parts. We are going to write it down in our expanded exponential notations. We are going to write it in our exponent form, and then we're going to evaluate those forms and put an answer to them. These are going to be our vocabulary words. We're going to learn what is an exponent, what is a base, what is a power, what is an exponential notation, and what is the expanded form. So what is an exponent? In an exponent, you will see it just like this in the upper right part of a number, just like a subscript. And an exponent is nothing more than a type of a math operation. And just like any math operation, it will tell us what to do. Exponent tells us to take a number and multiply it by itself a certain number of times. In other words, exponents are basically repeated multiplication. So let's explore the parts of an exponent. We have exponents are divided into two parts: the base is right here, and the exponent. We also call it power or index depending on where you live, but you're always gonna hear me say exponent or power. Now we have a base. That base may be positive, a positive whole number. It may be a positive fraction, a positive decimal, or a variable. And the exponent are also called power or indices. It can be positive, they can be negative, or they can be zero. But for the purpose of this presentation, we're going to stick to whole numbers and positive powers. So what does an exponent actually do? Well, it's pretty simple. If you try to multiply 2 times 2 times 2, I don't know how many times that is. Those are a lot of 2's, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times. You're trying to multiply the number 2 7 times. That is really, really long expression. Well, instead of writing all of that and answering all of that, all you need to do is put it in exponential notation. And you can write it like this, using the number 2 as your base and the number 7 as your exponent. And all that it says is that you're going to multiply your base, that will be your number 2, 7 times the same number. Again, so what it means is that we need to take the number 2 as a factor 7 times. Again, factor is multiplying it by himself 7 times. And you can read this one as 2 to the 7th power. Again, you can also say it 2 to the 7th, or raised to the 7th, sorry. You can say it 2 to the 7th power or 2 raised to 7. If you have a variable here, you have x, again to the 5th power. This is how we would say it, or x raised to 5. And that will mean that we need to take our x as a factor and multiply it 5 times, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. How do we read exponents? In an exponent notation, if a base has an exponent of 2 or 3, you can read it as follows, as squared or cube. For example, 3 to the 2nd power, you can say 3 squared. If you have 3 to the 3rd power, you can also say it 3 cubed. You can also say it as 3 raised to 2. We can also say raised to 3, raised to 4, raised to 5, or you can also say it 3 to the 4th power, to the 5th, to the 6th, to the 7th, and so on and so on. Now let's do some examples here. I have 5 raised to the 2, or you can say 5 to the 2nd power, or you can say 5 squared. Um, you can say any of those words. So I have, again, I'm going to just use to the 2nd power. I have 5 to the 2nd power. So that means my 5 is going to be my base. That is the number I'm going to multiply over and over. And the number 2 is going to be my exponent. And that is going to tell me how many times I'm going to multiply that 5. So how many times do I have to do it? 2 times. That means that 5 to the 2nd power or to the cube, sorry, or squared will be 5 times 5. Here we have another example, this time using decimals. And all it says here is that we have a 0.3, sorry, to the 5th power, making our 0.3 our base and our 5 our exponent. And the way that we would write it in expanded form will be like this. So here we have another example. This time we are using fractions. And what is our base? A half. Very good. We have a half as our base. And we have 4 as an exponent. And that what that means is that we're going to multiply that half 4 times. Now, there's a reason why I like to use those parentheses with that exponent, with exponents, because, and I'm going to try to use my pen here. I'm not very good at it because I'm using my touchpad as a pen, not my Apple pen that I normally use for our classes. So the reason why we do this is because if I write it down without the parentheses, I can assume or I may think maybe that my exponent is just this part of my equation. And that would be 1 to the 4th instead of the half that completes the complete half to the 4th. That is why it's good to always try to use the parentheses just to avoid any confusion. So we're going to multiply a half how many times? 1, 2, 3, 4 times. Very good. Now we are using here variables. And again, I also have a little note about using variables. I do not like to use that little multiplication right there because we can get confused. So what I like to write it as is that we have our base, that is our m, and we're going to multiply it 6 times. 1, 2, sorry if they don't look the same, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And instead of using that multiplication sign, I like to use a dot, or you can also use dots, or you can use a parenthesis too. And that way I know that you are multiplying a variable 6 times instead of using that x, because then I can think that you have a variable m and the variable x. So I prefer for you to use just that point. So here I have a problem, and you have here 5 problems actually. We have different exponential form operations here. And what I want you to do is to write that form in an expanded form. We have the exponential form, and now we need to write down the expanded form. So you can just pause this video at this time, write it down on your notebook, and try to answer by yourself. Once you have answered your exercises, please check out the solution. Please verify that they are like this. And if you did, very good job. And all we did, and I'm going to take the first one as an example, is that we saw that we had the number 10 as our base, and I multiplied it by itself how many times? The number of my exponent. Very good. That will be our number 5. So we multiply 10 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Very good. The next examples on this slideshow, they're gonna show us the expressions expanded, and then we can write them down in the explanation form. Gonna check it out here. This is how we're going to be writing them. And for that, the first thing that we need to do is locate our base. And remember, the base is the number that's being multiplied over and over again. And then you have to look for the exponent. And the exponent is going to be the number of times that you're multiplying that number for. So let's check out the first example. We have 5 times 5 times 5. What is our base here? Very good. The number 5 is our base. So what will be our exponent or our power? We can also call it like that. Is the number of times that we're multiplying, right? 1, 2, 3 times. So therefore, my exponent will be 3. And how would I write that? Our base is 5 and our exponent 3. Very good. We'll write it like in this form. How about a fraction? How many times are we multiplying that fraction for? 1, 2, 3, 4 times. So you put the fraction inside of the parentheses, and then we elevate it to the 4th power. Now let's do decimals. How many times am I multiplying this decimal for? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. So that means that I have a base, it's going to be 0.2, and a factor or exponent in this case because I multiplied it by itself 5 times, so our exponent is the number 5. And we're going to write it like this. Now, let's do variables. Let's try to answer this in a variable. In this case, I have the variable p, and I'm multiplying p how many times? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times. Therefore, my base is the letter p, and my exponent is the number 8. And you should read like this. A little side note, I really prefer it if instead of you writing that multiplying symbol with variables specifically, you use a dot or a parenthesis. Because I can think maybe that that x is a variable instead of a multiplication symbol. So I can use parentheses just like that, or I can just write a dot in the middle, and I can see that that's a multiplication instead of using that x. Just a little side note there. Now again, try to do this exercise. Write them down on your notebook and try to answer them. Pause the video at this time so you can do that. Now check your answers. Let's do the first one. We have our number 10 multiplied by itself 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times. That makes my base is going to be the number 10 and my exponent is going to be the number 8. And I can read that as 10 to the 8th power. So we have already practiced how to write our exponent in our exponential notations and in our expanded notations. Now we're going to answer and evaluate those notations. And it's very simple. The first thing you need to do is expand it. When you see the exponential notation, just expand it and then multiply. Let's do an example. If I have 2 to the 3rd power, that means my base is 2. I'm gonna highlight it here. And that means my exponent, I'm gonna try to do it in another color. And that means my exponent is going to be 3. What does that actually mean? Well, it means that I'm gonna take my base and I'm gonna multiply that base by itself. How many times? As many times as the exponent tells me to. So I'm going to take my base, that is the number 2, and I'm going to multiply it by the same number 3 times. 1, 2, 3. And how much is 2 to the 3rd power? This is the time to answer. You can pause this video at this time and do your calculations and try to answer it. If you said 8, you did an amazing job. And what we did here, I'm going to show you again, we just took the first 2 numbers and we multiplied it. And then we took that answer and then we multiply it by the other number that were hanging. And that gave us the answer. Sorry, that is the answer. That gives us the answer. Now let's do this example. We had that fraction right there and it's elevated to the 5th power. And so our base is gonna be that fraction right there, that is our half. And we have our exponent right here. Wait, I'm gonna try to do that in another color so we don't get confused. We have our exponent is 5. And what that means is that I'm gonna take that fraction and I'm gonna multiply it by itself 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now try to answer in your notebook. Pause this video, try to answer it, and once you do, check out the answer in the next slide. If you said 1/32, you were correct. And what we did here was just take the 2 first half and answer it, multiply it, and then we took the next number and multiply that with the answer of the first 2. And then we took that answer and multiplied it again. And then again until we got our answer. Very good. Now let's try this with decimals. The base is what? Our base here is 0.3. That is our base. And what is our exponent? And my exponent is 4. And that means that we need to take that 0.3 as a factor and multiplied it 4 times, right? We're multiplying it 4 times. So how many times I'm going to multiply that? 1, 2, 3, 4 times. And how much is 0.3 to the 4th power? Again, you can pause this video and answer it in your notebook. Then check out the next slide to see if you answered correctly. If you said 0.0081, you were correct. Good job. Again, now try to do this all by yourself on the notebook. Very good. Let's do the first one. The first one says 5 to the second powered. And all I have to do here is multiply that number 5, that is our base, 2 times by the same number. And 5 times 5 equals 25. Very good. Now I normally leave those pages like this in blank because I like to do more examples from your book. And I exhort you at this point to go to your book and check out some of those examples that you can see on page 11. And there are a few there that you can check out, especially the ones that are examples using formulas, where you can use the formula for area and the formula for volume. So I exhort you to do that, please. So this is our homework, and I'm always going to specify you what page you're going to be doing, and you're going to be doing page 12 and page 13. I also going to specify which of the exercises on those page you're going to be answering them. Sorry, I do not have the steadiest pulse. Let me try to. Okay, there you go. You're gonna do those exercises specifically, and you're going to do them on your notebook. Once you do them on your notebook, you're going to take a picture, you're going to send it to my email. This time it can be a picture because I am not saving that as your answer or as your assignment. What I am going to save is that Google form. You're going to answer, then you're going to write your answers in this Google form. Just gonna press this link. It's gonna take you to a Google form for this specific homework. You're gonna write your name, you're gonna write your last name, you're gonna tell me in which group you are in, if you are in 7th 1, 7th 2, or maybe 7th online. Then you're going to write an email so I'll know where to contact you if I need it. And then you're gonna answer the questions, and it's just gonna say page number and the exercise number, and all I need there is the answer. I do not need the procedure because maybe maybe you have very short space to write it down. So just write the answer, and that is what I'm gonna check and give you points for. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed this little presentation. I'm going to try to keep doing them. So every time we do our classes virtually, I can take a second and try to re-explain it to you in this way. So hope you have a good day. See you soon.